What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another album review for you. Decided to do a bonus fifth one just because, well, this week was a little bit more loaded, and I think pretty much every week leading up till probably October or November is probably going to be loaded because it seems like the years are always backloaded with releases. And I wanted to cover a shorter offering here just because I've covered this band before and they're a lot of fun. So I'm going to go over the latest EP from Inhuman Condition, Panic Prayer. This also comes out on the 21st of July on Listenable Insanity Records. This band formed in 2020 in Florida. This is their second EP overall. They have two full lengths. I actually went over their last one, Fear Sick, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty solid, though I do think their debut, Rat God, is a little bit better. But honestly, both are pretty enjoyable. This is straight up old school death metal with quite a hefty thrash influence to them. Now, this band has a pretty interesting history. Every member here was a former member of Massacre, and then when, well, essentially Cam Lee fired everyone from the lineup that was going to put out another Massacre album, they decided, well, fuck it, we're gonna form our own band. So this band features Jeremy Kling of, well, The Absence, and I believe he is also in Venom Inc. and a litany of other bands, as well as his bandmate in The Absence, Taylor Norberg, who's also the newest guitarist for Deicide, and we'll look forward to hearing what he adds to the next album when that comes out. And this band is rounded out by bass legend Terry Butler, Obituary, 6 Feet Under, Death, Massacre, and a litany of other bands. And yeah, this band's pretty awesome. I actually had the pleasure of seeing them on their tour last year with Deicide for that whole Legion tour, which was unfucking real. Inhuman Condition put on an amazing show, and a little bit of that is captured here. Now, this EP has 3 new tracks, 1 cover, and 4 live tracks, and honestly, it's a pretty solid offering and a pretty full offering for an EP. The new tracks definitely carry in the vein of their old school death metal sound. Lots of thrash metal influence. This is very riff driven. Lots of groove, D beats, thrashier sections. The opening track, Civilized Holocaust, opens up with just machine gun riffs. Jeremy's vocals, I think, are pretty awesome. He has a very over-the-top death metal approach. It's actually kind of similar to Cam Lee, like it's more of a roar, but he also has like a good mid-range growl to kind of add a little bit of variety to it. The drums are absolutely pummeling. They're in your face, very much in the pocket, and man, this is just riff central. There really isn't a lot of like super flashy, like, oh my god, that's a super technical moment, because that is not what we expect from here. This is very much in the vein of like Leprosy or anything Obituary related. Jungle Rot, I would even say, is in there, but also with like a little bit of crossover thrash or crossover death metal. I don't know, there's like a little bit in it. You hear it in the title track, it opens up with like D beat and kind of a punkier riff before settling into like a death metal groove. And groove is kind of the main thing with their sound. They like to settle in nice little groovy pockets, kind of just chug it up, growl vocals, occasional dive bombs. But this EP does like a couple of different things on here, like namely the song Final Credits, which actually kind of has like a slight bit of death doom to it. There's even some synths that pop in around what I would call like the chorus or pre-chorus on there, and it adds a little bit of atmosphere to their sound, which is, again, very much like, you know, meat and potatoes. Like, it doesn't really try to do much outside of, you know, that old school sound. And honestly, I wouldn't want it to, because I kind of like this. This is a fun throwback sort of sound. And while I would say like a lot of their stuff takes its cues from the Floridian death metal scene, I think this one takes a few more cues from Obituary in particular, especially on Civilized Holocaust and the title track. There's just some, you know, sludgy, riffy moments on there where it just has that Obituary sound. Like the riffs are a little bit dirtier. Even the tone kind of sounds a little bit swampier, and then you get the dive bombs in the background. It just reminds me of like vintage Obituary, or actually like almost anything Obituary. Now, the production, I believe, was handled by Jeremy and Taylor together, and I think they did a solid job. It has a very natural, organic sound. It still sounds modern, but not like overproduced or anything. There's a couple of extra elements to kind of spice it up a bit, but overall it just sounds like pretty much what you get live, which is evidenced by the live tracks on here. The only issues I had with the new track was on the song Final Credits, which is oddly kind of one of my favorite songs, but there's a transition on there that, you know, just kind of bothered me. After these big doomy sections, all of a sudden it breaks in this cool thrash bridge, like the guitars go fucking flying, lots of machine gun riffs, there's a cool lead in there, and then it kind of cuts off maybe a little bit prematurely because I felt like I didn't even have time to really settle into the whole, you know, thrash mode. And like, you know, this band loves to get pits going, and I definitely saw that when we saw them live. And I feel like that's just like a abrupt, weird break in the pit, because I feel like this was the moment to get them really fucking churning. But overall, like, the new tracks I think are really solid, and it kind of gets away from what I thought was an issue on Fearsick, where, you know, those songs kind of felt like leftovers. And I believe all the songs that were written on Fearsick were also done during the same session as Rat God, so those are the ones that kind of didn't make it. So you could say it's a collection of B-sides, but they are really solid songs. It's just, I think Rat God was the stronger songs. But this feels fresher and more invigorated, and I don't know, the songs are just fucking nice and vicious and just good old school moshers. Now the cover song, I think, is quite a fucking treat. They do a full-on metal cover of Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla. Not only am I a giant Blue Oyster Cult fan, I am a giant Godzilla fan, so this was like kind of a perfect storm here, and they really do make it their own. Like, it kind of starts off as, you know, a more metallic version of the song. Like, there's more of like a sort of pinch harmonic squeal for that main melody that comes in the opening riff. But it's what they do in the chorus. They essentially just thrash it up. They turn it into a moshy barn burner, and when they come back to that lead section, they kind of thrash it up again, but like with a groovy breakdown. And honestly, it's kind of just flat out fun. Jeremy doesn't abandon his death metal approach to the vocals. In fact, I think it just sounds extra fun because, you know, it sounds like a big fucking monster growling. Isn't that fucking perfect for a song about a big fucking monster? And yeah, you bet your ass I was fucking growling along with this because I fucking love that song. And I really wasn't sure how that was gonna work, but honestly, they nailed it. They put their own spin on it, and it was a lot of fun. Now, the 4 live tracks were actually taken from the tour that I saw them on with Deicide, and this is out in LA. I saw them in Detroit. I have no doubt that the mosh pits were just as intense in LA as they were in Detroit, because those were fucking nuts. In fact, the floor got wet at the venue we were at, and it's kind of like a, you know, gymnasium floor, so it got slick and people were biffing it left and right. No one fucking like ended up spitting teeth or breaking anything as far as I know, but man, there were a lot of fucking like slip and fucking faceplant moments, and you know, it was kind of funny. Maybe we helped him back up, but it was kind of funny. But the 4 live tracks in here are really good. Jeremy's vocal approach is a little bit different live. In fact, he does a lot of like big bellows. Honestly, he kind of sounds a bit like, you know, Barney Greenway when he does those like, you know, those big giant roars. But the crowd energy is good. He's clearly having a good time. The band's just fucking tearing it up. And Taylor is shredding his balls off in the fucking leads. And he was playing double duty because he was also in Deicide later. So, man, props to him. That must have been a fucking exhausting tour. But you have 2 selections from Fearsick, The Mold Testament and Recycled Hate, and then 2 from Rat God, Euphorophobia and The Next Step, which The Next Step is, God, probably the song that really sold me on them. Like, I love that fucking main riff in there. But yeah, they sound good. I already kind of knew they would because I saw them on this tour, and they just knew how to get the fucking pits going. In fact, before they, you know, get into The Next Step, I believe Jeremy was quoted as saying, "Push your fucking neighbor over." And it sounds like the crowd obliged. But yeah, I really enjoyed this EP, and I really dig the artwork. I think the artwork's fantastic, and I fucked up, I think, when I did the Fearsick review and said it was a replica cover, because, I mean, it kind of does look like a replica cover. But this is actually Dan Goldsworthy, and he's done all 3 of them, and yeah, he does solid art, and I like the fact that they have a main character that seems like he's progressively rotting with every album cover. And him peering through this window like a fucking creeper is, I don't know, pretty ominous. I kind of wonder how long they can keep him rotting from album cover to album cover, because this band has put out like a release a year, so eventually it's just going to be like a pile of bones unless they slow down. But yeah, overall, I gotta give this 3.5 stars. I see the new songs as a bit of an improvement over the last album. Again, the last album, you could argue, were essentially cast-offs from the first one, but I still think they're really good songs. But these songs stand out a little bit more. Some of the dynamics kind of jump out. And overall, they're just riffy, groovy, fun, and I think that's just kind of cool. Like, it's a fun throwback to like death metal's early years, and especially Florida death metal with that heavy thrash influence. The live tracks are awesome. It definitely captures their energy well. And I absolutely love the Godzilla cover. Like, honestly, that might have been my favorite thing on here just because I've been listening to that song since I was a fucking kid. And again, giant Godzilla nerd right here. So yeah, any mention of Godzilla and I'm going to perk up and it's like, you want to talk for hours about Godzilla because I will corner you in that conversation. But yeah, if you are a fan of all that old school stuff, you know, Obituary, Death, Massacre, and, well, yeah, I'll throw in Jungle Rot too. Like, it's definitely in that vein. Check it out. It's a fucking riffy good time. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Right now, the site is under construction, but you know, when it does pop up, hopefully we'll have some merch. Our Patreon link will be there. It's also on the channel someplace. But likely, before that, we will probably do a video showing off the new shirts, and we'll probably do a giveaway for them, so stay tuned for that. And stay tuned for a lot of things, because we are working on a bunch of different things right now. There's a lot of stuff to cover out there in terms of the whole metal universe, and I'm going to do my best to try to cover as much of it as possible. And that's because you guys rule, and you know, you guys keep us going, and you guys seem to like the content. No accounting for taste there, but we appreciate it nonetheless. But seriously, thank you all for all the support. I know the thank you part of the video where I say basically the same shit that I've been saying for years, but I mean it every fucking time. Thank you all. You guys are essentially the backbone of this. You guys keep us going, and we love talking to you and running you at shows and all that shit. So yeah, I'm gonna thank you one more time, and we will catch you later.